Tree Nguyen. I am the founder of the Wisdom Tree Executive Coach.
Awesome. Awesome. So I did want to share what our format is we get together, we have a good time. Nate doesn't know any of the people that he comes on with. And I had a realization, and I wanted to share it while you were here, Tree. So I've known you for several years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're a good friend to me and an amazing leader, an amazing human being. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I have so much trust for Nate because I bring people on, and bringing you on means a lot to me because I've known you for so long. And I would have never, like, sometimes we have these things, we have these connections that we don't even know that we have with people as we go through the journey until we're put into a situation. And I go, wow, I'm really excited for you both to meet each other and connect with one another because I know you both so personally and intimately.
Oh, yeah. Love that, Clifford. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And Nate, so she has a cohort coming up. I'm super excited because she is a phenomenal leader. I mean, amazing humility, Christian woman, sees and hears people really, really well. Absolute powerhouse of a human being. And part of the reason why I even got into Vistage in the first place, because I was like, I'm not going anywhere near there. But in knowing Tree, I'm like, okay, maybe it's okay. Maybe.
Safe. I have a friendly face on the other side.
Funny.
Thank you.
So, well, tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is. It gave me kind of an overview of what it is that you do on a day-to-day with the business. It is unscripted for me. There's no questions on my screen or anything like that. We are just two strangers meeting, and that is this is me in real time explaining it to you. So nothing is being broadcast out either. So I do edit things afterwards, but I'm very clear to let people know everything is a single take. I don't go back. If you answer a question weird, I don't go back and ask you to re-answer it because it's a real answer.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. The only editing that I do is if you have any gaps, sometimes some people process a question for a second or two. I'll just tighten those up to keep it more condensed for the audience. That's all I do. So when you go back to listen, nothing's switched around, nothing's taken out of context. The conversation might sound like it flows faster on when it's produced just because I cut out all the gaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. So I'll give you the elevator pitch of what I do on a day-to-day basis. But in essence, what I do is I help founder-led, privately held entities, executive team lead from the best of who they are so that the business can grow without losing its soul. And I'll pause there and let you ask me follow-up questions.
I'll actually, before I even ask you a follow-up to that, I want to go before to what made you start the business before I even get into the details about what it is you do.
Yeah. So I came out of corporate America, like any good Asian kid, I'm supposed to go to college and get a job and I'm set for life. Right. And so I really, I started my career with publicly held businesses. Fortune 100 companies. And back then, the idea is when you get into one of those companies, you're set for life. Well, I came in there, didn't love it, but I did my time there. And I realized that when I was in corporate America, and nothing against corporate America, but you don't have the aspect of being who you are. You're expected to fit into a mold. You're expected to be a certain version. And, when you're young and when you don't know any differently, that's kind of how you think life is supposed to be. And then you get to a certain point, and I got to a certain point where I'm like, there has to be more to working than just giving away your soul. Okay. And then when I extrapolated that a little further, there has to be more to life than just working, paying our taxes, and then dying. Okay. So that began my journey of, my deep, dark journey into the soul and finding who I am, why I'm on this earth. And I came across a quote that said, Mark Twain's quote that said, two most important days of your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. And I realized I didn't know why I was born. And these were the burning questions that I had been asking myself. Why am I here? Really, it's got to be more than just raising kids and paying taxes and dying. So that began a journey, and that a journey was a return to myself. Okay. And at some point in time, I asked myself, okay, so now that I'm starting to know who I am, so why am I born? Like, why am I here? Why did God put me in this earth? Okay. So that began another soulful journey. And I realized, and I borrowed this from, remember when EQ, I know I'm speaking to both of you are probably younger, much younger than I am. But when I was growing up in corporate America, I went when I think it's Goldman that wrote EQ, the first EQ book. He really coined the term. I went to his one of his first talks, and he said, "What you do in the world should be a cross between what you're good at and what the world needs." Okay, and so that began. Okay, what am I good at, and what does the world need? Okay, well, in essence, I was good with people. Okay, I love people. I care a lot about people. I care about them at the soul of who they are. And what does the world need? I'm in business. I am a leader of leaders. I lead people. I coach people. I guide people. And so why not marry the two? And so that began where I left what I was doing and began a coaching practice, became a Vistage chair. And now that's what I do all day long is coach people, help people be the best versions of themselves and help them remind them of who they are and who they're meant to be so that they don't have to pretend to be someone else. So that's kind of my long answer to the journey.
Are there any common threads that you've seen so far in working with founders, regardless of scale, regardless of industry, where it's like a common struggle, challenge, adversity that's something that we can kind of focus on?
I think there are a lot of them. See, most founders come into business without a lot of business knowledge, without a lot of business. How am I going to run this business? They just have a passion, and they said, okay, not that they don't have a lot of knowledge. Let me re-say that. They came to business with a passion and a dream because they have either a product or a service that they want to share with the world, that they think it'll make the world a better place. They get into it and then they realize, oh my gosh, I got to find sales. I got to deal with business, marketing, deal with people. And that's the last thing they want to do, deal with people. And because, it moves them away from what they really want to do. But it's what they have to do, right, in order to build a business. So they do what they do the best that they can. And at some point in time, the business has grown and, there's more people, more complexity. And the founder cannot have his fingers in everything because he becomes the bottleneck. And and everything evolves around him being the bottleneck, then he starts to go, why am I building this? I'm working way too hard. I don't have time for my own family. And I've got to deal with however many families how many employees he has. That's how many families he's responsible for. And it becomes so much of a burden. And, we use a lot of this saying we use a lot in Vistage where we say it's lonely at the top. And it truly is, because then our hero it's very lonely because he can't really share this with his family and he definitely can't share this with his employees. And so who does he talk to? And that's where a coach comes in to help him talk through things and let him know it's okay, give him a different perspective, basically check his bullshit out, basically find his blind spots and help him face it and help him find the courage within to move towards it. So that's kind of a common thread that I see in a founder-led business.
It's a fair one, and I think I'll go to reiterate it's not. I know where you wanted to dance around the intelligence thing, but I'll just throw a different label into it: the situational management. And because in business, that's the thing is you can read a textbook and you can go to get your MBA, but COVID didn't train you on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Real life in a scenario that didn't train anybody. And there's a lot. I mean, I'm an 18-year solopreneur. I started my business right out of 23 years old. My senior year of college, I started this business. because I graduated college in '08 and there was no jobs available. I
Yeah.
applied to a lot of jobs and everybody said no. And I said, I went and did the thing and I did the thing and I got the paper and now you didn't deliver. So my business was a middle finger to the industry that I was going to do it on my own and figure it out. And here I am 18 years later, still trying to figure it out. It's one of those things where it's I don't know how else to say like that better other than what you did say, because it is an intelligence, and intelligence isn't always academics and it's always book smart and it's not always IQ. It's experience, and it's lived experience, it's loss, it's suffering, it's joy, it's success. All of those things are what makes business intelligence, no matter whether you make $100,000 a year gross in your business or $100 million a year. All of those things are a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what you just said about um, the trials and tribulations of because it's true. You go through all these. I mean, there's no business, no matter how smart or how experienced you are, until you step into the arena. And
Mhm.
it's funny. I love your the name of your podcast because I always call it the arena. You are the man in the arena, you know. And so when you're there, you're fighting the fight, and you have, you know, bills to pay, your growth cycle, economic challenges, geopolitical, challenges. You brought up COVID. COVID threw a monkey wrench into everything. So what COVID did gave us though, and this is what's the one truth that I bring people back to, is that the answers are within us. Think about what COVID, there was no textbook for it. Okay. But you know what? In a few short weeks, we figured out how to get people connected at home, how to make it the business work. I mean, people that did a lot of their businesses in person innovated to doing it, virtually. And so it is really the power that's within us, the creativity that's within us, that is innate, that we have that and we forget to tap into it because we're so used to outsourcing our knowledge, our expertise to someone other than us, someone with a higher authority than us. And we forget that we have that within. And that's really the crux of the really, if I had to pinpoint a secret sauce of what I do or why I do what I do, it's that simple. Is returning the person to who they are.
Clifford, I'll let you go, and I got a million other questions.
Yeah, well, when Tree talks about the soul level, and I just share a really quick story. My mom was a hospice nurse, and I got to see a lot of people didn't start dreaming until it was too late, and that broke my heart. And I feel that's part of why me and Tree get along as well as we do, because she gets it. Like, when you can get to a person's soul, they will shock not only themselves, they'll shock others too. It's a powerful, powerful space to be in. Um, and she experienced it herself, because it's kind of scary. Like, I would be lying if I said like, oh, it's this easy thing. You just walk across the bridge and then you get into your soul. Like, no, it's a process, but it's an exciting process, and it's a process that's worth it. And what I've at least experienced, and I would like to know from your side, Trey, cost of inaction. It's not what you take for doing the action, it's what happens if you don't do the action. That's something that I've noticed consistently, and I want to know, is that something that you see with people, like the cost of inaction that gets them to jump and say, oh my goodness, I need to do this?
Yeah, if I understand your question, so you're saying what are the costs of inaction when they don't face themselves? Is that what you mean, Clifford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of both intrinsic costs and also intrinsic internal costs and then external costs. You said something that really reminded me of my own, journey and what triggered it, or what triggered. And Nate, you asked me earlier, and I didn't. What triggered me into action really was the 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 possibility of me outliving my son. When my son was 15, he got really sick. Okay. Up until that point, I had all these burning questions. But when my son was sick, it really made me face, you know, that the intrinsic that yearning desire, that philosophical spiritual question that we all face at the end of our lives. Like, did we do what we came here to do? Well, so for me, it was really life hung by a thread when that moment in time. And it helped me to look at my own life and say, okay, where was I playing small? What was it costing me? And honestly, the cost was my soul, myself. I did not know who I was. I did not, it was really, I was lost in a marriage that wasn't working. I was lost in the identity of, being this VP of whatever. I was mother. I was lost in all that. And so I had to find my way back. And facing those adversities really brought me to myself. So the cost that I see people all day long is the cost of inaction. Let's call it that, right? There is the internal, the playing small, not living to their full potential. And then the result of that is it eventually it causes mental break and then eventually causes dis-ease. And people don't link, that to physical illnesses, but it does, because when you're playing not to what you were brought into this world for, why you were born, and you're playing small and you're acting out of fear, that is a huge cost. And then you've got cost when you're not that version of yourself. There's a rippling effect in your family, to your business, the people around you, your community. And so I see leadership, and the, our topic here at hand is about leadership. And leadership, to me, is not a business problem; it's a societal responsibility because of the rippling effect at home and then in the community. So I hope I answered your question.
You answered it, and you
Yeah.
nailed the underlying thing that I speak to a lot of people when I describe this show. Is people are like, "Oh, it's a business show about leadership." I'm like, "No, it's actually a mental health show."
Nate,
Because
I always say business is personal.
yes.
Business is personal. That's it.
Yep.
So I'm gonna tell you that corporate face and that mask thing. I did the thing. I did the VP. I was the VP and all this stuff, and it was a $50 million business and all these good things and all this stuff, and I achieved things. I couldn't like have. I guess I'll describe this as like years later, I couldn't find myself. I couldn't figure anything out. 4 summers ago. And I've talked about this before, but I'm going to give it more detail to the story, Clifford, and what I'm about to say, because what Tree just said. And I'm not sure how you feel about psychedelic drugs, but I was in a controlled space of a mushroom journey, did a hero's dose on the beginning of sobriety. I went through and went to a lecture from a researcher that showed that you can kick addiction with a hero's dose and a very set system and formulaically. And I said, I'm an open-minded person, so I'm going to do it. So I go to do it, and what happens in about 6, 7 hours into it, I'm just in a chair in a campfire in front of me by myself in a field. And all of a sudden, the visualization I get is not hallucination. The visualization is what you just described, which was I was a silhouette and I was outside of myself as the silhouette. And all of a sudden, these other silhouettes were just pulling what seemed like a silhouettish skin off of me, and then thus making my core that seemed like it was solid become more and more transparent as these other silhouettes keep taking away. And then as I'm telling you this right now, I'm getting chills. So I felt so passionate to tell you this story because it seems like you're going to connect with this. And eventually there was nothing. And it was just the framing of the silhouette of me. And then all of a sudden I get it, is that my entire career, when I was I grew up in a blue collar family, and I was one of the first in my family to go to college, and I got a scholarship to a boarding school, and I got to experience what that world was. But I didn't have the money to barely be there. We took out loans, we leveraged everything to go there and then college. So when I got an opportunity to succeed in that world, in that corporate aspect, and get that vice president position, I wanted to hold on to it so badly because it was such a reflection on my family and myself and everything we had worked towards, that I didn't want to really look at the fact that I was not myself. I was a raging, high functioning alcoholic who was just achieving success despite the alcoholism and that high functionality of things. I guess what I'm trying to say is I want to be vulnerable with you because I want other people to understand that success has to be fully felt. Success is not sustainable with a business card and a corner office and a penthouse. Because if you can't put your head on the pillow at night and be proud of what you're doing and feel fulfilled, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or like Clifford just said, on the deathbed is when the awakening is going to come. And I want from this show, I joke around about it being a mental health show, but sometimes I feel that I need to really drill the audience and the guests and everybody in Clifford and be like, this is real. And this is so real that we're able to share this with other people and tell people that you're not alone. Like when you're crying in bed at 2:00 in the morning because you don't know when your bill's going to get paid at the end of the month, bring comfort in the fact there's others, and don't use that as a way of victimhood, but use that as a way of empowerment to know that there are other people you can call and say, I'm stuck in this situation. You're not looking for a handout, but you're looking for advice. And like that lens of community is so important. And I know what you guys are doing with Vistage too, is that is a reinforcement of that as well. You know, you guys are building a community where people know that it's like, it's not a bailout. You know what I mean? I'm not going to call you because I'm panicking and I don't know how to run my business. But the more people realize, going back to the hero's dose of the psilocybin, was the mask can only be taken on and off so many times. And I want to tell everybody that, like, after that, I stopped caring about what anybody thought of me that next morning. And and Clifford met me a little bit after that, you know what I mean? A little whiles after that. And I can tell everybody that, like, doing this as long as I have and never really achieving that millionaire status for 18 years, but being able to control my life like I have, the joy that it's brought, but the more part is bringing the perception that you guys are doing also to other people, to let them see that life doesn't have to be work tree and home tree and mom tree. And these masks are going to get worn out after a while. And if the more you can realize you're doing it, the faster the breakdown comes, because that also came to me. I spent six months in a bed in depression. You don't have to do that. I want people to not have to do that stuff and see that, like, those moments are coming. Those reckonings will come for every single person. And if you never have that reckoning day, God love you for living on this earth and not having any suffering, you know? Like, I mean, kudos to you. But back to you, Tree. I went on a huge tangent there, and I don't usually tell news stories that are emotional. So that's where the tangent went, was I'm trying to keep my composure while also talking there. How often do you find success with letting people see that perception, or is there a defensiveness where if they do become vulnerable, then everything else will go away?
So let me also start. I love your story and I love you sharing that, Nate. Now you're encouraging me. I've always wanted to try, a journey. I've been too afraid, but I'll tell you what, I work a lot on my spirituality, and I get those vivid dreams without the drug. So one day I'm going to have to try what you just tried. I'm so excited for that. But I
got to do it on the show, guys.
Let's do it. So
my experience in that world is less screens, the better.
Okay, so what was your question? Sorry, Dan.
No, you're good. And I went on a tangent there, and I want to come back. Is how hard is it, or not hard, or what is the strategy for helping somebody? What you talked about with the full 360. Let's go back to, we talk about the Renaissance era. You know what I mean? We used to use that phrase growing up, where, like, everybody's gonna be a Renaissance person. They're gonna be well-written poetry. They're gonna be able to throw a football, and they're gonna be able to hike a mountain. And then they'll be able to cuddle a dog. You know, those are the 5 pillars of a real good human being contributing to society. But when you get to a place as a founder, there is a protectionism that occurs when you've achieved success, where sometimes we see this in very rich people that maybe didn't fix their foundation, and they're full of paranoia and they're full of insecurities that then reflect themselves at scale because there's resources behind it. Is it a challenge sometimes to get people to break out of that mentality to be truly themselves sometimes and touch their soul?
Yeah. So it depends on the person. Okay. When, the saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will come, so when the person, who sits on his mountain of money and the 10 yachts and the, homes and all that, when they sit there and they go, damn, I look around and means nothing to me. Those are the people that are ready. And when they come to me, they know that they want their soul to be fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
They've achieved all the check boxes, the goal line, as I call it, the goal line. They've achieved all of that, but what they have been missing, and they might not have realized it, is what the achievement or the growth on the soul line, without naming it that, because they can say things like, I don't feel fulfilled, you know, I'm with my wife for X number of years or my husband for X number of years, but we're not happy. My children, don't talk to me, or, they're not the best citizens that I had envisioned for them when they were first born. So they're sitting there and they're in pain. They're in that emotional, mental turmoil. Okay. So when they're there, it's very easy to be able to touch them, because we can have these conversations, because now it's a real vulnerable conversation. But for the people that are operating more out of still in the ego and still looking at achievement without the connection to what it all means, like a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
those are not the people that I can break. I'm not a miracle worker, right? They have to be ready. So it makes it so difficult. And those are the people that either I will have to fire because there's the integrity's not there, the honesty's not there, the vulnerability's not there, or they just want, when they're just purely operating out of ego and want to stay there and they're happy there, then yes, it's quite the challenge. And so, you know what, for a long time, I was trying to break those people and help those people. And I came to a realization, it hurt me because I wanted it more than they wanted for themselves. And so I'm like, you know what, I can't do that. I need to work. And there are plenty of people who are ready. And I will tell you, Nate, when 18 years ago, or even prior to COVID, and I would say probably prior to 2012, when we all know the shift in the Mayan calendar, and we all know, and we're moving into the age of Aquarius. I'm sure you guys heard all that. The consciousness, the humanity's consciousness was not there. It was starting to there. And there were a lot of light workers who were seeding the consciousness. And so people like you who said this to corporate America, you were, believe it or not, you were the way showers in your own way, because you helped shift the consciousness. You helped brought in a different mode of operation, because the old traditional mode was, like you said, do all the checkbox things, get a job, and you're set, and certainly my family, we're immigrants. I came to this country when I was 7, and my family, we were very poor. Talk about humble beginnings. My dad had a 3rd grade education in Vietnam, and my mom had a 1st grade education. Okay, so they were not, they were laborers, as blue collar as you can get. When they came here, we arrived here, and we, it was the American dream, right? To eventually own a home and then get an education. And so growing up, my mom and dad, because they were not educated, they pushed us to get the education. And so, getting the education, getting into a big company, was the golden ticket. I remember when my sister told my dad, and she worked for one of the big four, big six or big eight, whatever it was back in the day. And she told and she grew and she got elevated. And she told my dad she had a $50,000 raise. My dad sat at our dining table crying. That was more money than he had ever made. I mean, probably. He was making, when he came to this country, he was making when he retired, I looked at his record at this company he worked the longest. He started making $2.25 an hour. At his peak, he was making $9 an hour. So, and then during the mid '80s, when the Iran situation, they closed the business. He retired. He was making $7 an hour. So for a $50,000 raise in one shot meant like $1 million to my dad, and it was huge. Money was huge. But you said something earlier that made me remember, that situation with my dad. We were so, even at the time, that was my identity, was to be that, because of what my parents had painted, because they didn't know any differently. But my soul was calling me to something bigger and better. And it wasn't about bigger from the soul's perspective. And many of us, we go through this journey of life. And I will tell you, Nate, no one of us will get out alive. Okay. There's going to be roadblocks. The universe is going to throw us. It's like, that video game, Frogger, you're going life. It's called life. Whether you see it as an opportunity, or you're going to skirt around it, or you're going to face it head on. And what I say is that when you skirt around it, eventually, you said it earlier, the thing will come back to get your attention. It's going to come back with a vengeance. It starts off slowly, giving you, a little bit of ease and grace. And then eventually it's like, it's going to throw bombs at you. And then it's going to happen, whether some kind of tragedy in the family, you're going to face a divorce, you're going to face a medical situation, you're going to get your world turned upside down, because that's part of how you get returned to yourself. That's part of the hero's journey of returning back to who you are meant to be.
No, I love that story with your father and everything like that, because I definitely that connects and speaks with me, because it's like, yeah, when you have those moments, especially when you're in your 20s and you start earning, and then they're reflecting on it, it puts a lot of pressure on the situation and continuing to maintain that achievement.
Yeah.
It's I grew up in a family that was always challenge yourself, and that was it. And I took that to my Asperger's and ADHD brain went to a whole different extent of like always challenge yourself, where people are like, I think you're just intentionally suffering just to achieve like some sort of challenge sometimes. I'm trying to lock out of that sometimes.
So you're a recovering type A personality like me.
Yeah. I'm in between. I'm not an introvert, but my foot's out the door on the extroversion. But I love turning the lights off in the house every once in a while and being alone. So.
By the way, Nate, I just want to tell you, type A personality means for type Asian. Okay.
I love it. Clifford, do you have any? I have some other ones, but I'll let you kind of jump in. I don't want to steer all the questions. Yeah.
Oh, you're good.
But real quick before I forget, Paul Stamets. So Tree, when you're thinking about possibly the mushroom journey, look up Paul Stamets, Paul. The last name is Stamets. He is one of the top funded researchers by the federal government, and he went to my high school and he was speaking at a lecture at that. He's way older than me. We didn't go to school at the same time. But that's the path rather than going to a Grateful Dead show or anything like that. So
I know enough. When you mess in the spirituality, in the spiritual realm, you got to be careful, because you can run into some.
And that's why I'm telling you, his is a clinically driven formula. It's not there's no emotions or spiritual into it. This is off of his clinical data. I believe they get like 40-50 million in funding every year to do this research. So it's worthwhile to check it out from that aspect. Because a lot of times I've done this in the past and I've never had success like I did that night because I've always listened to it from people's personal opinions of how to dose and how to do things. And it was really the formulaic way was the way to go. And for your type A personality, I'll give you the formula. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Nate, do you do any type of spiritual practice?
I do. I do. Yeah. So we had an episode a couple weeks ago where I went pretty deep into it as well. It's I'm new into it though. I'm not a lifelong person. I was the person that said it's woo woo and I laughed at things and I snubbed things away. But honestly, when I stopped drinking alcohol and started spending more time in my own head is when I started to realize a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
I always encourage it. I know Cliff has his spiritual practice too. So yeah, that will help you when you focus slowly on meditation, prayer, and bringing yourself into that theta state. You can tap into all kinds of stuff, but in a healthy way. But make sure that you're protected. Make sure that you always ground yourself and ask for, whether it is, I always ask for me, I always ask for God, Jesus' protection, the Holy Spirit, and to make sure that I only receive messages from the highest realm, from the highest vibration. So when you cite that as an intention, you're not going to be messed with, from a lower vibrational entities.
Absolutely. And I do want to share one thing with the coaching tree. Please share your cohort with everybody as well, because what I've learned in my journey is we're getting hit with three things. We're getting hit with feathers, baseball bats, and semi-trucks. And I want to get hit with as many feathers as possible. Like, that's my goal. Like, help bring on the feathers, please. I've had enough semi-trucks. I don't like semi-trucks. I would rather avoid a semi-truck. And the cohort, what you're going to be putting in place, can you share more about what you're bringing, what you're gonna deliver, and how they can even reach out to you?
Okay, I appreciate that. I love that analogy of the feather baseball and then the baseballs or the truck. I'm gonna have to steal that, Clifford. Okay, that's pretty dang
Yes,
good.
take it. Yes. Because I noticed people, they did it in their head too, like, oh crap. Some people like the semi truck. They're a little crazy, but you can work with them too. They just
Right. So I appreciate that. So a long time ago, when I was working with leaders, I'll give you the foreshadow, and then I'll tell you about the cohort, because this is what it means to me. And I think it can help a lot of people. So as I was working with leaders, I realized, and in my coaching, what was really between people's ears is what's getting in their way, And I would say the mind is a dangerous place to venture in alone. That's why you need a guide. You need a coach. That's why you guys exist. We exist. Okay, it's a dangerous place to venture in alone, because at the core of it, it's our thoughts, okay, that get in the way. And what we don't realize is that our thoughts, we think, just because we think and we have thoughts doesn't mean that we are. Okay, unlike, was it Plato, Aristotle, one of those guys say you think therefore you are? I disagree. Okay, and most people don't realize that they have the power from within. Okay, and so in my work with leaders, I realized the misconception that a lot of people have, especially when they step into the leaders arena, is to think that they have to have all the answers, and then they have to be the one. Everything centers around them, and what ends up happening is that they overthink. They they're overcritical of themselves. They outsource. They people please. They lose their essence, their soul, as I put it. Okay, and so much of my work has been helping people kind of break some of those patterns. And then I realized that as I'm working with one-on-one with coaching people, and I could only make a dent because they didn't have there was not enough time in each coaching session to go back and really give them some of the why behind the how. And so one day, I was at a point where I felt like, okay, I was meditating and said, I want to know like what, am I being called next? So what came to me was the vision of creating this program. Okay. So I created this program and is designed to help people with the tools that they can also move through with a basis of understanding and really some reframing of what they were taught, the misconceptions, what they were taught. I would actually go as far as saying they were indoctrinated to believe. Okay. So and the program took me some time to get to this point, but I felt that it was not led by me. I was just a conduit to birth it. All right. So it's called the Enlightened Leadership Program. The name of the program is called the 8 week or the 6 month program is called the Truth, Leadership, Courage. Not true, but truth. Because when you think about truth, it's absolute. Because what's true for you is not true for me. So that's why the name was very deliberate. The title was very deliberate. Truth, Leadership, Courage. And what that looks like is we put people into a room, and the cohort now, this coming up in August, and I'll do several cohorts, probably next year as well. But the cohort is like bringing leaders together, people who don't know each other, into a leadership learning laboratory. We spend 6 months together, 2 hours a week, and we explore first with the first pillar, which is there's 3 parts to the program, 3 components. There's the EQ piece, then there's the IQ, and then there's MQ. Okay, EQ obviously we know, and that is part of emotional intelligence, is self leadership, is building you as a leader. And I use the word build just because it has a rhyme to it, but it's really not about building you. It's actually returning you to who you are. So it's build the leader. So that's the EQ piece, helping you to find those innate strengths so that you can lead from there and giving you permission to go back to you. That's the first part. IQ is about now building the team. Now that you are strong in who you are and you are grounded in who you are, then you lead your team from that grounded place. And in that pillar, it's about galvanizing the team, building trust, building safety, learning to better communicate so that there's a practical element for this piece, because at the end of the day, as leaders, we got to hit the bottom line, right? We got to have revenue. We got to hit P&L. So that means production. That means productivity. So we got to make sure, and we as leaders, we get our work done through people. So that means, how do we work with people so that we achieve the metrics? That is the IQ piece. Okay. And then the MQ piece, which is so near and dear to my heart, because for many of us, we stand on the shoulders of the people before us. Other people have taught us, other people have mentored us. And MQ is mentorship quotient, which is my trademark. Okay. A big part of, I think, the soul DNA is that we want to make a difference. Okay. And many of us think we make a difference by touching the product that we touch, or the service that we touch. But truthfully, what outlives us is the legacy we leave behind for the people that we touch, and we change their lives, and so we help mentor them. And it's like this exponential rippling effect. So we get to impart our knowledge, our wisdom, our way of being, our philosophical uh, our philosophy, our philosophical viewpoints onto the next generation, because we have that responsibility to shape the next generation. So MQ is another piece that helps shape the generation. So when you do that, your legacy outlives you. Because in my work of talking to, hundreds, if not thousands of leaders that I've touched over my 30 plus year career, it goes back to, I learned this from so and so, and I'm no different. Everything that I'm learning, I'm teaching, it's encompassing from books I've read, to people I've talked to hearing something so profound like what Clifford just said. I said, I'm taking that, you know, and then maybe I might remember to give you credit. Maybe I don't. Maybe after a while, it's like, okay, it becomes something Tree said. But the point being is that I'm standing on your shoulders, right? So it's the same thing. So when we look at it from what do we want to leave in this earth? You know, that's bigger than who we are. It's even bigger than our family, you know, the children, our children is given, right? But then it's the exponential growth of our societal responsibility to leave this world better than we found it. And so that's the MQ piece. So it's those three pieces. We go on that journey together. It's not not mushrooms, okay? But it's the next best thing I can do. But I take people on that journey and to help them return to themselves and lead from a more grounded place and returning who they are. Because also touching on what we said earlier about the mask, Nate, see, that's the thing. You know, many of us, we've gone through many trainings where we were taught to be a certain way, okay? We were a certain formula, a certain way of being, you know, you do this so that you can be a better leader. But what inadvertently happens is that we then become someone else, AKA we're putting on a mask, okay? And it becomes exhausting, like we said. You take all the mask off and on, you switch from, you know, mom tree to leader tree to, you know, service tree, societal tree, or the coffee drinker tree. It's different. And it becomes so exhausting because it's a mental gymnastic that we go through. But why can't we just be who we are and we ebb and flow through the different phases, different parts of our lives and be grounded who we are? And when you can be and be that from that place, then you're being the real you, not the role you, as I often describe. So yes, that's the cohort, that's the challenge. We start in August. We go until the first it's broken out by three parts, sessions. There's this first session 1, and then session 2, and broken up with the intersession between. So we go from August until November. We take a break for the holidays, but that's intersession, and the intersession is where you really practice in real time. And before we shift into more building the culture and leaving our legacy with MQ, we focus on practicing who we are, bringing it into our everyday learning laboratory, get good in those skills, be practicing returning to who we are. And we come back for session 2. Now we dive into, okay, how do we look at growing the next generation of leaders?
I love it. That's really the part you just said about the role instead of the real you. That one that's a great impactful statement right there too, to kind of come through. And what's the name of the cohort again?
It's the Truth Leadership Courage Program.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. And yeah, they do during the intercession. I don't leave them alone. They do get to meet one-on-one with me. And that's where we can sit down. You know, in the classroom, you're sharing and you're learning to be vulnerable and openly, you know, helping one another and building that community and realizing you're not alone. Other people are facing the same thing you're facing. You think that you have your own shit, other people have their own shit too. Okay. So it's comforting to know we're swimming in our own, you know what. Okay. So then the one-on-one, now we sit down and say, okay, now let's really talk without other people in the room. What are you dealing with? And how are you moving through this? So they do get that one-on-one with me during that intercession.
Excellent. Clifford, I could talk to you forever. I mean, I really appreciate it. We have to wind down here for this one. Clifford, if you have anything you want to add in, and also Tree, before we kind of close out, make sure any social handles, websites, everything like that, where people can get in touch with you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so for me, going back to the cost of inaction, if this speaks to you, take action on it. Take action on it and take it now. What I look at in leadership is about being willing to step in. And sometimes you don't know the answer, and that's fine. That's sometimes the best answer you can get is, I don't know, but I'm going to step in. And the more people step into whatever they want to do, great. that's you leading yourself. And always remember. So if this is resonating in any way, step in, just go. And Tree, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your heart, and I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you so much. And vice versa. You know, it takes one to know one, Cliff. So I appreciate you saying that, because right back at you, my friend. All right. And Nate, I really enjoyed, and I could talk to you forever as well. Let's do it. Let's talk offline. Because I really would love to just continue the conversation. If anything, I want to talk more about your journey with Paul. Thank you. And you can find me. So go to the landing page. It's my TLC, okay, dot the wisdom tree, play in my name, TRI, thewisdomtree.com. You'll find more information on that. And my handle, I'm on LinkedIn. So if you go to the landing page, you'll find me with the contact information. Shoot me an email, book a call with me. I'd love to talk to you. And if we don't ever work together, it's okay. I would love to just get to know. I enjoy meeting great people and having these conversations, because it's also, you know, feeds my soul as well. So I'd love to connect with anyone if this resonates with you.
Excellent. Well, Tree, thank you so much for coming on. Like, most importantly, I know that you know Clifford, but you don't know me, and the trust that's involved in meeting a stranger and not having any questions in advance, not having any prep. We didn't meet prior, and I intentionally didn't look you up online. And I want everybody to understand that that's intentional. I'm not here to embarrass you and ask you questions that I should know if I had Googled you. It's to connect with human beings. And this is about leadership. And if you think you're a leader, but you can't actually be empathetic with your teammates and your community members, you're not really leading. Like, you're leading your life, and that's great. Congratulations on the linear path of solitude, but you're not contributing to the greater good of society. So I really appreciate what you're doing, Tree. Clifford, thank you for bringing her on. And obviously, the other part is really the challenge that we put out everybody on both shows that I have every week. It's 5 minutes of kindness to a stranger. All right. When you're walking down the street, put your phone in your pocket, look at the person walking by, look at the strangers on the street, make eye contact. Don't be weird and creepy, but just make eye contact. Be a hospitable person. When you're at the gas station filling up your cup of coffee, look at the person next to you, ask them how they're doing, shut your mouth, and focus all of your attention on them and their story. 5 minutes of kindness to a stranger, 20 minutes a month. We talk about ROI on here. I can't think of a better use of my time than 5 minutes a week. And I want everybody to understand that your life could be full right now. You could have the wife, the husband, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the picket fence, and the dog, and the kids, but somebody else couldn't be. And the odds, if all of us together gave 5 minutes a week, effectively, positively affecting those people, that's what this is. This isn't for us. It's not for a gain for us. It's because this world is a beautifully destructive place, and not everybody has a full life right now, and not everybody's happy. And human connection and the power of love can really transcend those feelings. And can't convince me out of it, everybody. So I've been doing this every week, all day long. Yeah.
Nate, you're speaking my language. That is so, just a little bit of looking someone in the eye. Like, think about, you know, your barista that had to get up at 4 o'clock that morning to make you your coffee, you know, or the server. You know, my kids are servers all through college, and they come home and they tell me stories, and it just ruins their day of how poorly they're treated. So a little bit of kindness goes a long way. And even if you don't look the person in the eye, when you're passing someone in the street and they're not looking at you, don't walk by and judge them for it. You know, chances are they're going through stuff, and all you can do and what you can do is just send them some light, send them some love, and they'll feel it. There's a rippling effect. So you're speaking my language. And Nate, I want to tell you guys what I love about your platform. What you just said about not looking anyone up and being real, that speaks to me, because it's talk about being the real you. I get on and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to expect. And Clifford's like, hey, we'll just have a conversation. And I've listened to previous podcasts, and I just love just being real. You know, human beings being real through this device, through this technology that's not real, you know, that we get to connect and feel the energy through the technology. So I love you. God bless you guys for what you do. This is a beautiful podcast. I'm so honored and privileged to have been on here. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that Clifford introduced us, because now I have a new friend. I'll reach out.
Exactly. You guys, thank you so much for those kind words. That's probably the best feedback we've gotten so far in the couple of years we've been doing this. Yeah. So Thank you so much for your time today, and you guys have a good rest of your day. You guys take
You
care.
Thank you, guys.
Very well.
See ya.
Take care.